Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned the hard way in life. Everybody doesn't need to know your next move. You don't have to post about it. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to explain it. You just have to work. See, in this world, we've been conditioned to believe that talking about success is the same as working towards it, but it's not. Talking is easy. Silence is strength. Self-improvement is a personal journey. Do it without seeking validation. There's a power that comes from working on yourself quietly, away from the spotlight, away from the noise. Too often in today's world, people feel the need to broadcast every step of their journey, to show others that they're improving, leveling up, doing more. But the truth is, real growth doesn't need an audience. It needs dedication, focus, and consistency. When you begin to improve yourself, whether mentally, spiritually, financially, emotionally, or physically, that's a sacred act. That decision to become better is yours and yours alone. Nobody else can walk that path for you. And no one else truly understands the sacrifice you're making or the pain you're overcoming. It's tempting to want recognition. It's human nature to crave acknowledgement. But when you become dependent on applause, your growth becomes a performance. You start moving not for progress, but for praise. And that is dangerous because the moment the applause stops, your motivation collapses. You must learn to validate yourself, clap for yourself, be proud in private. Because when you learn to do that, you become unstoppable. The problem with seeking validation from others is that it puts your self-worth in someone else's hand. And people are fickle. One day they love you, the next day they don't. One moment they support you, the next they criticize you. If you're chasing approval, you keep adjusting your direction based on what they like instead of what's truly right for you. Working on yourself requires deep honesty. You've got to confront your weaknesses, face your fears, admit your faults. That's not a show for Instagram. That's a quiet, personal battle that happens behind closed doors. The hours you spend learning new skills, healing your trauma, pushing past resistance, that's not glamorous and it sure ain't public. But that's where the real transformation happens. Some of the most powerful growth moments happen when no one is watching. It's in the small decisions. It's when you choose to say no to a bad habit. It's when you choose discipline over comfort. It's when you forgive someone who never apologized just so you can have peace. It's when you show up to the gym on a day when everything in you says stay in bed. Those moments are quiet, but they are everything. You don't need to tell the world what you're doing. The results will speak in time. Validation will come in the form of who you become, not in how many likes you get. And when you build yourself without the spotlight, you become strong enough to handle the spotlight when it eventually finds you. Another reason why personal growth should remain personal is because not everyone will understand your journey. People will project their fears, insecurities, and limitations onto you. They'll question your decisions. They'll mock your ambitions. That's not because you're wrong. It's because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. And instead of confronting their own lack of progress, it's easy for them to question yours. That's why silence is your shield. It protects your vision while it's fragile. It keeps you focused and centered. It gives you space to evolve without distraction. Not everyone is meant to be part of your process. Some people are only meant to see the finished product, not the work behind it. So you owe no one an explanation. The only thing you owe yourself is the discipline to keep going even when no one sees it. Silence protects your vision from unnecessary criticism and distractions. When you have a dream, a goal, or even just a small spark of ambition, it's in its most vulnerable state at the beginning. That's when it can easily be crushed by doubt, opinions, or judgment from others who either don't understand it or are too afraid to chase their own. Speaking too soon about what you're working on exposes that fragile vision to unnecessary pressure. People will question you, challenge you, and in many cases, dismiss your ideas, not because they aren't good, but because they can't see it the way you do, and truth be told, they're not supposed to. It's your vision, not theirs. You were given that purpose, that idea, that calling for a reason. And to protect it, you have to keep it in a space where it can grow freely, uninterrupted by voices that add no value to its development. Silence gives your mind clarity. When you're not busy explaining yourself or defending your path, you're able to focus entirely on the word. You eliminate the noise that often leads to self-doubt. You no longer feel the need to overthink every step because you're not anticipating someone else's reaction. You trust yourself more, and that trust builds momentum. There's something powerful about knowing you're doing something that matters without needing to validate it through conversation. In silence, you start to move with purpose, not performance. You're no longer looking over your shoulder wondering if people approve. You're no longer checking in with everyone to see if you're doing it right. You're locked in. That level of focus is rare, and it's where real breakthroughs happen. The more you talk about what you're doing, the more vulnerable you become to external influence. You can have the clearest vision in your heart, but one negative comment, one laugh, one question meant to undermine you can create hesitation. It can plant seeds of doubt that weren't there before. That's how distraction creeps in. People may not intend to discourage you, but their words can do damage, especially when you're still building your belief. That's why keeping silent isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when to speak and when to protect your peace. It's choosing to pour your energy into the process, not into explaining the process. Another danger of talking too much about your goals is that it can create a false sense of achievement. Sometimes the satisfaction of saying what you're going to do tricks your brain into feeling like you've already done it. That's a dangerous trap, because then instead of doing the hard work, you get addicted to the praise of planning. You end up in a cycle of telling people your dreams, getting a reaction, and then losing the hunger to actually pursue it. Silence keeps you hungry. It keeps you humble. It forces you to channel your excitement into execution. You stop announcing and start applying. And eventually what you've built becomes undeniable. Distractions also come in the form of comparison. The moment you start sharing your vision, people will compare it to something else, to someone else. They'll ask why you're doing it that way, why it's taking so long, why it doesn't look like what others have done. All of that can cause you to second guess your unique approach. But when you stay silent, you stay centered. You're not influenced by trends, opinions, or outside timelines. You move with intention, and you protect your vision like it's sacred, because it is. It deserves the space to grow, to change, to evolve without being interrupted. Growth happens in the dark. Success speaks when the time is right. The most powerful transformations don't happen under the spotlight. They happen in silence, in solitude, in places where no applause is given and no one is watching. That's where strength is built. That's where discipline is tested. When you're growing, truly growing, there's a phase where nothing seems to be happening. The world doesn't see results. There's no recognition. There's no confirmation that what you're doing is working. But deep down, you're changing. You're becoming stronger mentally, more consistent in your habits, more in control of your emotions, more focused on your purpose. And even though no one sees that work yet, it's shaping the version of you that will eventually succeed in public. Every successful person you admire has gone through seasons of being overlooked. That's not a setback. That's a setup. Because growth that happens in the dark is often the most lasting and powerful kind. There's something sacred about working in private. When nobody is watching, you're not performing, you're not pretending, you're not doing it for likes, claps, or attention. You're doing it because it matters to you. That's where authenticity is born. That's where the foundation becomes unshakable. Think of the roots of a tree. No one sees them, but they are what hold the tree up. They are what keep it grounded during storms. They grow deep before anything grows tall. That's how your growth should be. Quiet, steady, invisible for a time, but incredibly necessary. Without that foundation, success is shallow and short-lived, but with it, success becomes something you can sustain and build upon. People often rush to show the world their progress. They want to be seen as improving. They want recognition for the effort they're putting in. But the problem is, when you reveal too soon, you invite judgment before you're ready to handle it. You open yourself up to feedback from people who don't understand your journey. You create pressure to maintain an image instead of focusing on true development. When you stay in the dark and let the work speak later, you protect your process. You allow yourself to make mistakes, to learn, to adjust, without the fear of being watched. That freedom is what leads to real transformation. It's what gives you the space to fail forward without shame or distraction. I get to the deep. There's also something powerful about surprising people with your results. When you've been quiet, when you've been consistent, when you've been intentional with your growth, your success will speak so loudly that no explanation is needed. People will see the glow up. They'll feel the shift. They'll notice the difference, and you won't have to say a word because the evidence will speak for itself. That's the kind of success that commands respect. Not because you demanded attention, but because you earned it through quiet dedication. Working in the dark also tests your commitment. When no one is cheering you on, will you keep going? When no one is noticing your effort, will you still show up? That's where character is built. That's where you prove to yourself that you're not doing this for the crowd. You're doing it for the calling. And once that's clear, the need for outside validation fades. You begin to trust your journey more. You start to rely on your own internal motivation. And that makes you unstoppable. Because the truth is, once you grow in silence, your success becomes undeniable. You won't need to talk about what you're building. The results will walk in the room before you do. Every moment of discipline brings you one step closer to transformation. Discipline is the invisible bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It doesn't scream. It doesn't show off. It doesn't beg for recognition. It quietly demands that you show up day in and day out, even when you don't feel like it. It asks you to push through discomfort, to stick to your decisions long after the excitement fades. The truth about discipline is that it's often boring, repetitive, and thankless. It's waking up early when your body wants more sleep. It's choosing to work on your goals when everyone else is choosing comfort. It's turning down distractions, not because you don't want them, but because your purpose is greater than your urges. Every time you make that decision to stay focused, you are training your mind. You are rewiring your habits. You are inching closer to becoming the person you've envisioned. Discipline is where confidence is built. You don't wake up with confidence, you earn it. You earn it by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and then actually follow through, even when it's inconvenient, you strengthen your self-belief. And over time, that belief becomes unshakable. People often think confidence comes from success, but the real truth is that confidence is built through struggle, through discipline, through showing up on the hard days. The external rewards might come later, but the internal reward is already forming. That's the part no one sees. That's the quiet power that begins to grow within you. It makes you walk taller, speak more clearly, and move with certainty, not because everything is easy, but because you train yourself to keep going when things are hard. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's not about never missing a step. It's about never quitting. You might slip. You might fall off for a day or two. That's human. But discipline pulls you back. It reminds you why you started. It holds you accountable when motivation fades. And the more you rely on discipline rather than emotion, the stronger you become. Motivation comes and goes. It's a feeling, and feelings are unpredictable. But discipline is a decision. It's a commitment. It says, even if I don't feel like it, I'm still doing it. That kind of mindset changes everything. It separates the dreamers from the doers. It builds resilience that no outside force can break. Discipline also teaches patience. We live in a world of instant gratification. People want fast results, overnight success, quick validation. But real transformation doesn't work like that. Real change is slow. It's often invisible at first. You can be working day after day and not see any results for weeks or even months. But what you don't see is the internal shift, the mindset changing, the habits forming, the resistance weakening. All of that is progress. Every time you stick to the plan, even when it feels pointless, you land another brick in the foundation. One day you'll look up and realize you've built something strong, something solid, something undeniable. And it won't be because you got lucky. It'll be because you stayed disciplined long enough for the results to catch up. There's something deeply empowering about knowing that you're doing the work even when no one sees it. That you're not chasing attention, you're chasing growth. That every early morning, every late night, every choice to stay on track is shaping you into someone stronger, more focused, more capable. You begin to respect yourself more. You begin to take your time seriously. You stop waiting for the right moment and realize that the right moment is every moment you choose discipline over comfort. Let your actions make the noise, not your words. In a world where everyone is talking about their plans, their progress, their hustle, it's easy to get caught up in thinking that saying something is the same as doing something. But there's a quiet power in restraint. There's strength in keeping your mouth closed and your head down while you put in the work. Talking can feel good in the moment. It gives the illusion of progress. But it's the doing that changes you. It's the effort behind the scenes that set you apart. People remember what they see you accomplish, not what they heard you say. And when your actions start producing results, they speak louder and with more impact than any words ever could. You don't need to tell people who you are if your life already shows them. There's a certain energy that comes from someone who is silently building, silently improving. You can feel it without them saying a thing. That presence, that focus, that determination, it's undeniable. People watch that. They notice it. They might not say it, but they see the shift. That's the kind of impact you want. You don't want to be the person who's always announcing the next move, but never making it. You want to be the one who moves in silence and lets success speak on your behalf. The truth is, most people are too distracted with their own lives to truly care about your journey until you give them something real to notice. Not a post, not a promise, not a projection. Actual results. That's when people start paying attention. That's when your work begins to echo without you saying a word. Letting your actions speak first also protects you from unnecessary pressure. When you talk too much about what you're going to do, you put expectations on yourself that can weigh you down. You create an audience that's waiting for a show. And if the results don't come as fast as they expect, you start feeling like a failure, even if you're making progress. That's the trap of public declarations. But when you keep quiet, when you build without a spotlight, you give yourself the freedom to move at your own pace. You can fail in private. You can learn in peace. You can grow without judgment. And when the time is right, when your results are ready, they'll do the talking for you. There's also a sense of maturity in letting your success unfold naturally. You don't need to convince anyone of your value when your results are evident. You don't need to argue with doubters when your growth is obvious. You don't need to defend your process when your outcomes speak for themselves. Actions shut down debate. They silence critics. They validate vision. Because once something is real, it's undeniable. It can't be argued with. People might question your methods, but they can't question your results. They might not understand your journey, but they'll see where it led you. That's the reward of patience. That's the power of working quietly and letting your life become the proof. When you choose to speak less and do more, you become more grounded. You stop chasing external approval and start building internal strength. You start measuring your progress not by how many people notice, but by how much you've improved. And that shift changes everything. You stop needing to explain yourself, to defend your dreams, to announce every decision. You begin to understand that real power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be explained. It just needs to be consistent, focused, and rooted in purpose. Working in silence builds strength, confidence, and long-term results. In a time when most people are consumed with proving themselves to the world, there is something deeply powerful about choosing to grow quietly. Working in silence doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing everything with purpose, intention, and consistency without needing the world to validate your every move. When you decide to keep your progress to yourself, you're not hiding your growth. You're protecting it. You're shielding it from distractions, from doubters, from opinions that don't serve you. That silence becomes a sacred space where real transformation happens. It's where your mindset shifts, your habits develop, and your self-discipline is tested and strengthened. You learn to rely on your own inner voice instead of the noise of the crowd. And that voice becomes clearer and stronger with each step forward. Strength built in silence lasts longer because it's rooted in experience, not in applause. You go through tough days. You make sacrifices. You choose discomfort over ease. And you do it without broadcasting your struggle. That process hardens your resilience.